All right, once again, the Destroy Trump media has worked itself into a frenzy over a meeting that Donald Trump Jr. had back in June of 2016 with a Russian lawyer. The press is running wild, all types of black helicopter, tinfoil hat conspiracy theories about Russian collusion once again. But of course, they're completely missing many of the key facts about this story. And if you actually do some research and read more than the headlines of these phony New York Times reports, well, which is what the media should be doing in the first place, you'll notice some massive holes that are in this story. Number one, the lawyer who Donald Trump Jr., Paul Manafort, Jared Kushner met with didn't work for the Russian government at the time of the meeting. And by the way, as Donald Trump Jr. said in his statement, quote, the woman stated that she had information that individuals connected to Russia were funding the Democratic National Committee and supporting Mrs. Clinton. Now, her statements were vague, ambiguous, and made no sense. No details or supporting information was provided or even offered. It quickly became clear that she had no meaningful information. By the way, she corroborates that. So in other words, the meeting was meaningless, did nothing to produce anything. Where's the collusion? Not to mention, if this lawyer was such a threat and a Russian agent or a spy, then why did the Obama administration let her into this country in 2016? Now, as John Solomon and Sarah Carter reported over the weekend, this lawyer was denied a visa, but eventually was allowed into the country, by the way, under President Obama. And as President Trump's legal team pointed out, they think that this meeting could have been a setup made to give the appearance of Russian collusion, and that the person responsible for orchestrating all of this, now pay attention, you're not going to hear this in the mainstream media, is connected to Fusion GPS. That is the op research firm that produced the fake Christopher Steele dossier, remember the British spy on Donald Trump. And by the way, as the New York Post has reported, Fusion GPS has several ties to the Democrats, including Clinton allies and even Planned Parenthood. And according to the Washington Times, Christopher Steele said in a court filing that that dossier was never supposed to be made public and that BuzzFeed should never have published it. So once again, another one of the Destroy Trump media's Russia collusion conspiracy theories is falling apart. And by the way, since everyone's talking about collusion, well, why did the media and Democrats freak out? Why did they freak out over a story in January that had real evidence? And by the way, you won't get this in any other mainstream media outlet. None of them will talk about this. Take a look at the headline from Politico, quote, Ukrainian efforts to sabotage Trump backfire. And according to Politico's report, the Ukrainian government officials tried to aid, help Hillary Clinton in several ways by questioning then-candidate Donald Trump's fitness for office, by assisting Clinton allies in their op research, by putting out documents insinuating that the Ukrainian government was investigating a top Trump aide, and the report adds that a DNC operative even met with Ukrainian officials at the Ukrainian embassy in D.C. to discuss ways to expose former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort and ties to the country. Oh, they went to the Ukrainians, an outside entity, another country. Well, where's the outrage over this? How many of you even heard about this before? Because there's actual evidence of collusion. The meetings actually took place. The research actually happened. That's collusion. And by the way, where was Congress calling for investigations? And also tonight, there's another example that does expose the Destroy Trump media and the Democrats' real agenda. And by the way, on top of all of this, another massive scandal that Democrats and the media are glossing over. According to an explosive new report from John Solomon, he'll join us later, the former FBI director, James Comey, tonight could be in serious legal trouble and have committed several felonies because 4 of the 7 memos about his conversations with President Trump did in fact contain classified information. Now, we know from Comey's testimony that he shared at least one of the memos with his friend. Remember the Columbia professor who leaked it to the New York Times on his behalf because he wanted a special counsel, and he wanted that to lead to the appointment of a special counsel, which, by the way, it did. And according to the same report, the FBI considers the memos that Comey made, well, they happen to be government property, typed on a government computer in a government car, not personal documents, which is how Comey described them under oath. And, of course, tonight, Comey's friend is denying that the memos that he was given contained classified information at the time he received them. How would he know? He's also denying, by the way, giving the press the actual memos. Really? So what it all boils down to, what we're now living through, is a massive, huge double standard, selective moral outrage. Now, we know real felonies, real crimes were committed. Again, things the mainstream media will not report or tell you if it doesn't have the word Russia in it. Hillary Clinton mishandled and destroyed top secret, classified, special program information, government information. But the media, the Democrats, that's not a big deal. Clinton, as Secretary of State, handed up to 20% of America's uranium. You want to talk about a Russia conspiracy? To Vladimir Putin and the Russians and the people involved in that deal kicked back over $100 million to the Clinton Foundation. And by the way, Bill Clinton's doubled his speaking fees in Moscow, where I grew up from. That's called bribery, pay to play. And, of course, we got the former Attorney General, Loretta Lynch. And Lynch, by the way, also pressured James Comey to call the investigation into Clinton's server. Don't call it an investigation, call it a matter, which is what the Clinton campaign wanted. You know, who cares about possible obstruction of justice in that case, right? And, of course, we have the deep state. What have they been doing? Selectively leaking and unmasking raw intelligence to a corrupt media. The deep state leaks are so bad that a recent Senate report found that they were happening at a rate of 1 a day through the end of May. In other words, 125 leaks at least in 126 days, 7 times more than the previous 2 administrations. But nothing there, right? Now, Comey leaks government documents to the media. Do they care? Not at all. Democrats, members of the Destroy Trump media, have now for months been lying, smearing, slandering, trying to delegitimize the president, stop him from doing his job. But that's just what they do. We shouldn't care, right? It just shows just how abusively biased, agenda-driven these so-called rigid, radical left-wing ideologues are. They are doing a disservice to you, the American people. They are purposely ignoring the real scandals that now exist, real crimes committed, real collusion that occurs. They hate this president so much and want him to fail, they'll do anything they can to get him thrown out of office. You got the Democrats, you got CNN, the New York Times, you got NBC, the Washington Post. They don't give a rip about the president's agenda. They'll do anything they can to stop it. And more importantly, at the bottom of that, on the foundation of that, they don't care about the millions and millions of forgotten men, forgotten women that this last election was about. It's all about me in the media. It's all about their Russia obsession in the media. It's all about their left-wing ideological agenda. So I was on vacation last week. I try to gain perspective when I'm away. This is what I have concluded in the state of the country as we are today. The media, the deep state, the Democrats, the never-Trumpers, and frankly, lazy, spineless Republicans, they are not giving a rip about enacting President Trump's agenda, and they're working hard to stop it. And by the way, who's impacted by that? The hard-working men and women that make this country great every day. Guess what? These people are showing no respect to the American people and their decision. No desire do they have in the media, all these groups, to get the country moving in a direction that will help every person that went to the polls in November. To the media, to all these groups, the deep state, Democrats, weak Republicans, it's all a big game of gotcha. They try to take down the president. They lie. They use innuendo, selective moral outrage. Any mention of the word Russia, they go over the cliff, and they're foaming at the mouth. So before we continue, I want to remind you, the American people, what this country needs to get done, and sooner rather than later, and what the media needs to focus on, even though they never will. You can never trust them. The border wall needs to be funded so we can protect the American people. Obamacare, let's see, it's been promised by Republicans in 2010, 2014, 2016, and now they're saying they're not sure they can get it done? Well, maybe they should be done if they can't. And we need to stop. Look at the situation in North Korea, a clear and present danger to the entire world, of course, thanks to Bill Clinton's 1990s bribes to the rogue regime and them being played. And, of course, they got the nuclear weapons that Clinton promised they'd never get. And now you got a lunatic, Kim Jong-un. Now he's seeking ICBM capability. Now we got Iran. Well, of course, now we can never allow them to get nuclear weapons, despite the billions Obama gave them and the right to continue to spin their centrifuges. We need to get the economy going. We need to get Americans back to work, Americans off of food stamps, Americans out of poverty, Americans buying homes. And you know what? All of this is so important. But all I want to talk about is Russia, Russia, Russia. You, the American people, the people that went to the polls in November, the forgotten men and women that have been left behind, you're now caught in a crossfire, an ideological crossfire. The groups we've been telling you about, the Destroy Trump media, the obstructionist Democrats, the deep state, never Trumpers, lazy Republicans, are all doing this because they don't like how you voted. They think they know better. And that's why tonight we have to call out the Republican lawmakers. They have asked for this job, and they're now failing. They are part of the problem. They need to cancel their August recess, stay working like the rest of America in Washington to fulfill the promises they made to all of us here. If you people can't get health care done, get the wall funded, the economy moving, a new budget plan passed, you are failing the American people. The president has been in office since January doing everything he can do on his own. It's time you in the House and Senate get to work. Stop with the vacations. If you have to work 14 hours a day, 7 days a week like most Americans, do it. It's time to end the excuses. Find a way to get it done because you owe the American people. You gave your word. In other words, do your job. That's what you were hired for. You're supposed to be public servants. Do what the American people sent you to D.C. for.